about the Pico case, the landmark library censorship case.
Sometimes you never know exactly where you're supposed to be. And open doors may close, then you won't find out where they're.
From George Orwell's classic tale of government control in 1984 to Ray Bradbury's pivotal story of censorship in Fahrenheit 451, the fight between free thinkers and the dystopian authority is a well-worn literary theme. In the United States, the tension between the freedom of speech guaranteed under the First Amendment and the power of local authorities to ban books has played out through its history. Book bans in America date as far back as 1647, with New England colonist and lawyer Thomas Morton's book New English Canaan. A scathing satire of the New England colony and the treatment of Native Americans, the book was politically and socially scourged from existence by the Puritans. The books that have shaped America are often the most controversial. In 1851, the idea that slavery should be abolished was considered radical and dangerous. Abolitionist Harriet Beecher Stowe published the 2-volume story Uncle Tom's Cabin, which was burned by slave owners. In 1873, the New York Society for the Suppression of Vice was founded to supervise the morality of the public. The Comstock Laws, named after Postal Inspector Anthony Comstock, extended throughout the 1800s. The laws barred the delivery and distribution of every obscene, lewd, or lascivious manuscript. These laws contributed to the burning of tens of thousands of books. In 1954, a children's book cover depicting a black furred rabbit holding hands with a white furred rabbit sparked intense backlash from anti-integration organizations.
There was some criticism that the author was trying to inculcate this subtle propaganda in the very young by having a black rabbit marry a white rabbit.
While the debate between free speech advocates and supporters of book bannings continued throughout the 20th century, the Supreme Court had never addressed the issue. This would soon change. In September of 1976, a member of the Island Trees School District in Levittown, New York attended a conference hosted by the conservative Parents of New York United. A list containing 32 books was presented. Later, 11 of the books were found in the school library.
Because we got a phone call from the school librarian, and she said the school board has removed, 9 books from the school library, and we're furious. We want to do something. So it was as simple as that. So without reading the books or doing anything else, they just took their list that they got from this conference, and they came back to the library at night, mind you, and they removed the books. And then the uproar followed that. How dare they do something like that?
In Slaughterhouse 5, the character Kilgore Trout states, "Jesus was a nobody. Board members considered this statement to be anti-Christian." The Naked Ape by Desmond Morris was banned for scientific descriptions of sexual intercourse. Down These Mean Streets by Piri Thomas was banned for a general description of ghetto life. Soul on Ice by Eldridge Cleaver was banned because the character stated that George Washington had slaves. The Best Short Stories by Black Authors, edited by Langston Hughes, was banned for featuring a controversial story by James Baldwin. Go Ask Alice by Anonymous was banned for mentions of rape, drugs, and sex. Laughing Boy by Oliver Lafarge and Black Boy by Richard Wright were banned for profanity. And A Hero Ain't Nothing But a Sandwich by Alice Childress was banned because the board feared that the word ain't would foster poor grammar. But 5 Island Tree students aged 13 to 17, including school newspaper editor Stephen Pico, led a lawsuit challenging the removal of the books, citing the First Amendment and their right to receive information.
I looked at the motivations behind book banning as an attack on minority culture, especially Black literature in the 1970s and 80s.
However, the United States District Court for the Eastern District of New York ruled in favor of the school board, citing the authority of school boards to impose their own political philosophies. The board stated in defense that the books were anti-American, anti-Christian, anti-Semitic, and just plain filthy. But instead of silencing Pico and his friends completely, the Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit reversed the district court's ruling. The board petitioned the U.S. Supreme Court, which granted certiorari, a judicial review of the case. In 1982, after hearing oral arguments, the Supreme Court issued its opinion, which was the only time in U.S. history that the Supreme Court had considered and ruled on a school book banning case. The Supreme Court's ruling was a turning point in history, marking the first time the highest court in the land made clear that local authorities' rights to ban books was not unlimited. In the end, the court ruled 5-4 in the students' favor. In his opinion, Justice William J. Brennan Jr. wrote that, while local school boards have a substantial legitimate role to play in the determination of school library content, those boards' authority must be exercised in a manner that comports with the transcendent imperatives of the First Amendment. In other words, school officials can't remove books due to personal beliefs. Justices Stevens and Marshall joined Brennan's opinion, while 2 others concurred, with different rationale. Justice Harry A. Blackmun joined Brennan's conclusion that the school board was not justified in removing the books, but disagreed that the students had a First Amendment right to receive information. The Supreme Court's ruling left the door open for local authorities to continue to try to ban books on a narrower criteria of whether the books were vulgar or lacked educational content. In the short term, however, it was a victory for the students of the Island Tree School District. Levittown is a community where we don't get to see too much of what is in those books, 17-year-old plaintiff Jacqueline Gold stated, emphasizing the victory's significance for the community, which was mainly white and middle class, with limited exposure to poverty and life among minorities. Through steadfast advocacy, the students prevailed and set the stage for the next round of the fight, with clearer battle lines and new strategies for both sides. This included spurring new grassroots initiatives to carry on the fight against book banning. In 1982, a coalition of international organizations spurred into action by the Pico case created Banned Books Week. Libraries and bookstores feature shelves of banned books.
Jennifer Eldridge, director of Longview Public Library, says that banning a book is a personal preference and the librarians are there to serve everyone.
Banned book curriculum has also been integrated into schools nationwide. In the long term, the Pico decision, and its limitation on local authorities' ability to ban books, continues to frame the debate.
In Board of Education versus Pico, Justice Brennan found that the Constitution protects not just the right to speak and to write, but the right to receive information and ideas. The First Amendment plays the central role in affording the public access to discussion, debate, and the dissemination of information and ideas.
Most recently, state legislatures and local school boards have continued to try to ban books. However, free speech advocates have been successful in combating the bans by utilizing the Pico decision. In 2023, as the number of book bans and challenges rose to a concerning level, the town school district of Katy, Texas removed several books for vulgar content. The removed books included Beloved by Toni Morrison, Lawn Boy by Jonathan Evison, and several books by people of color and LGBTQ authors. Students fought back, citing the Pico case rationale almost verbatim.
They cannot remove books simply because they dislike the ideas contained within.
It's really damaging because the books that are targeted tend to be books, at least in this contemporary moment, that books that are about LGBTQ plus experience, Black experience, the experience of people of color.
And on the flip side, those advocating for the book bans focused exclusively on trying to show that the books were vulgar or otherwise lacked educational content.
Removing vulgar books is not about canceling someone's walk in life, about hating LGBTQ people.
But, of course, not everyone agrees.
When we see people attacking books based on the content, I think we also have to think about those attacks as attacks on the people who are represented in that content.
In conclusion, while book banning has been a part of American life from the beginning, the Pico decision showed that there were constitutional limits on what local authorities and school boards could restrict. The case also triggered a wave of new free speech advocacy as students, parents, and librarians realized that the fight against book banning would continue to play out at the local legislature and school board level under the guidelines laid out by the Supreme Court. In this polarized environment, the age-old debate continues, but the Island Tree School District versus Pico Supreme Court decision looms large in the background as a critical turning point for free speech advocacy in America. In the view of at least one advocate, the fight for free thought and independence remains bright.
Because young people out there are listening now, they're aware that they have rights, and there are things that they can do to combat censorship.
Another open door.